Welcome to Around Kansas. I'm Deb Goodrich.
And I'm Michelle Martin.
Great to have you with us. And it's Wildlife Wednesday. Woohoo! So today we're going to talk about the bison or the buffalo in the vernacular. And again, want to give a shout out to our wildlife sponsor, Mittens Travel Plaza, the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center. And speaking of the mighty buffalo, if you go into Mittens, there's this wonderful taxidermied buffalo that looks like he's just charging right through the wall. The kids love it. It's a pretty cool piece. And also in Oakley, tell them about the big buffalo they can find in Oakley, Michelle.
Oh my, there is none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Buffalo Bill Cody on horseback, actually hunting bison. You can find the amazing bronze statue. Deb and I have stopped there many a time before Deb lived in Oakley. If we were traveling to Colorado or other parts of Kansas, we always stopped off in Oakley so Deb could visit Bill Cody.
Oh,
And
we could
so
worship at the feet of Buffalo Bill. Yeah, that's
and
right.
it is one of the most massive installations, and it is nothing short of breathtaking.
Yeah, Lewis Evans thought about that, and then Charlie Norton did the sculpture, and I think Charlie and Lewis were sitting in a restaurant one day, and Charlie started sketching, and the Norton family is just unbelievably talented. Charlie and his kids and his wife, they're just all incredibly talented artists, and so. My 2-year-old grandson can't say buffalo, so every time we drive by, there's Buffalo Bill. So, but they love it. The kids love it because it is monumental. It
Yeah.
and there's Bill forever hunting buffalo. Just uh, there for eternity, hunting buffalo, of course, to Buffalo Bill. The railroad pays his Buffalo Bill. So we, at Fort Wallace for a fundraiser this past year, we raffled a buffalo hunt up at Ken Clem's ranch, the Buffalo Boys, up um, north of Goodland, actually. So pretty far northwestern Kansas. And we had the rifle and the hunt and the whole thing. And it was a pretty exciting raffle. And we had a young man is he from Scott City, Mr. Haim. And he was thrilled. And of course, a nod out to those guys who ranch and manage the buffalo herds, because they are helping to preserve the bison forevermore. And, managing the herds includes, the hunts help thin the herds and, cull the bulls especially. And it's good management practice. And of course, the meat is very, very good.
Deb, in 2004, when I was still living in Kansas and I was teaching at Fort Scott Community College, I had an opportunity. A good friend of mine, John Reed, he and a friend had purchased a buffalo hunt. And so they went up to Hoxie, Kansas. And I went with them. And it was early December. So there was snow on the ground in Northwest Kansas. And I'm not the tallest person in the world. I'm about 5'2" on a good day. And we went out in the buffalo pasture and went hunting. And we did not do it with modern equipment. It was old school. It was black powder. It was Hawken. It was a Hawken 50 cal. And the most difficult part was actually following the herd, kind of tracking the herd, and then figuring out which one you were going to go ahead and go for and to take out of the herd. And it was a very long process, but it was really interesting because I gained a complete new appreciation for what anyone in the 19th century had to do to hunt, whether it be for commercial purposes or to feed a family. It was a long and involved process. It is time consuming, it is labor intensive, and, actually, watch them shoot, the buffalo, and it was amazing. We then took it, loaded it in a truck, and went north, across the Nebraska line to a little town that had a meat locker, and the gentleman there specifically was good at processing buffalo.
Mhm.
And it was nothing short of amazing. And when that meat was done and processed and packed, I had some back straps and I had some ground, and it is absolutely delicious. And you can see why native people, one, had such respect for the buffalo, but two, how the buffalo was one of the preferred food sources for the nutritional value and the energy value the body gets from it. So native people in the West had the right idea when they moved from place to place to go ahead and follow the herds, to go
Yeah.
ahead and sustain themselves.
Right, and following the herds was, as one of my friends reminds me, a migratory pattern, not, not a, what's the other word, that means wandering? I just can't.
Nomadic.
Yes, nomadic.
Yeah,
Rather than nomadic, it's
it
migratory,
is.
and it makes sense. You're following the herd for sustenance, and that totally makes sense. So, thankful to these guys, and Duff's Buffalo Ranch is just south of us here in Oakley, and we love driving by on the highway when the buffalo were out close. One day I was driving, and there's so many, Michelle, there's so many photo ops and so many that
Yeah.
you can catch because, you're on a road. You can't just stop in the middle of the highway sometimes. But there was, I guess, is it a tower cloud? It's not exactly a wall cloud. It was like a tower cloud behind this herd of buffalo, and then you had the sun going down, and you had all these things going on at the same time. And I'm like, man, millions of people have lived and died on this planet and never witnessed anything that spectacular. It was just incredible. So I'm so thankful for these guys. And Fort Hays State has buffalo there, and we're always driving by, especially with the kids. We stop and visit there and let them. They have a white buffalo in the herd there, and we always stop with the kids so that they can see them. And the photograph behind me is by our good friend Ken Stafford, who is an amazing photographer. And this is at the Maxwell Wildlife Refuge. And so Ken, I think, leads some tours up there, and he is also a wonderful photographer. And so they have photographic expeditions, where the photographers ride out and get pictures of the elk and the bison and whatever happens to show up that day. So it's a pretty cool deal.
Deb, growing up in Michigan, I had never obviously seen bison up close and personal until I moved to Kansas. I'd seen plenty of photographs, seen them in movies. However, when I moved to Kansas, I lived in Pittsburgh, and just north of Pittsburgh, off of Highway 69 heading north, there's a little spot you can pull over, and there is a small little section of restored prairie, and in it was a small bison herd, and that was the first time I had ever seen them. I was on my way to Fort Scott to go tour the National Park Service site for the first time, and I saw this little spot to pull over, and I said, wow, what are those great big beasts over there? And I pulled over to take a look, and I walked up to the fence, and they were bison. And I remember getting out my cell phone and calling my mom and my dad and said, "You will never guess what I'm standing in front of." And my mother said, "What?" And I said, several buffalo." And she said, "I hope there's a fence between you and them." And I said, "Yes, there's a very large fence, Mom." And she said, "Please don't climb that fence to get a closer look. You are curious. Let them be wild in their space, and you watch politely from yours," which is a
Good,
really good policy when we're
good
dealing with.
idea.
So.
Let's take a break. Real quick. We'll be right back. Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
Welcome back, folks. We were just talking about the first time that Michelle saw buffalo. The first time I saw buffalo was back home in Patrick County, Virginia, in the Blue Ridge Mountains, because we had a fantastic zoo up at Metazodan at the time, the Circle M Zoo, and they had buffalo. And we had a reminder that buffalo used to roam. Of course, the buffalo east of the Mississippi and west of the Mississippi were a little bit different. So the buffalo reminder in our county was Buffalo Mountain. And Buffalo Mountain looks like the hump of a buffalo. And buffalo used to range there a long, long time ago. So I had seen buffalo, not in the numbers, of course, before I moved to Kansas. And they're actually ranchers back home on the North Carolina, Virginia line that were managing herds before I moved to Kansas. So yeah, I had seen some before I moved to Kansas, but certainly not the numbers I've seen here. And I have to say, when Chef Walter Steib from A Taste of History, the host of A Taste of History on PBS, he came out to Kansas and visited the Mahaffey Stagecoach House, and he visited Council Grove. And Shirley McClintock there at the Trails Cafe set up a tour for the chef to visit a local buffalo herd there. And he was like a little kid. He had cooked buffalo, but he had never seen them, like you said, up close and personal. And he was just like a little kid. I think that was the most exciting part of his trip, was being able to get up close and see the bison herd. So yeah, it's a magnificent thing. They're just magnificent creatures. And of course, our friend Alan Sherrill raised buffalo there for a while. He had a handful of buffalo, and he would sit out there and read poetry to them, which they really appreciated. And yeah, he had that. I'll never forget this, Michelle. He had that one. I think it was just a horse trailer, so I don't know what he was thinking. But he was hauling this buffalo bull to market, and there is an indentation in the top of that trailer, like the size of a couple of bushel baskets. So, you know, I think that may be the time that he got pulled over for, I don't know I don't think he was speeding with that thing. So I don't know what it was, probably weaving as that thing was going back and forth. But he pointed, told the officer to look what he had in back. And he's like, just go, just leave, and he let him be on his way.
I've never heard anyone be able to say they got themselves out of a traffic violation or a speeding ticket by
hauling a buffalo.
Yeah, only our friend Alan Sherrill. It's interesting because when I after I had my first encounter with bison, when I actually got to Fort Scott that day and was touring the buildings, I, of course, made a stop in the visitor center and gift shop, and I picked up this lovely little volume called Letters from the Crack Post of the Frontier. And it is letters written by Thomas and Charlotte Swords. And of course, Thomas Swords was Captain Thomas Swords, who was the architect of the post. And Charlotte was his beautiful little wife from New York. And it was amazing. Charlotte actually wrote to another one of their officer friends that she kept a bow and arrow at the ready in the hallway outside their formal parlor and dining room, because she said if she ever saw one of those creatures, one of those bison, come lumbering across the parade ground at the fort, she was going to grab it, she was going to go out the door, down the steps, and she was going to fell it with her own arrow. And that was one of the things she wanted to do the most. And sadly, I don't believe she ever got to that opportunity, even though she did ride and she did, ride and accompany her husband hunting. And, but we don't know if she ever got to see them. But boy, she had her bow and arrow and she was at the ready because she was going to get one.
Probably best that she didn't, because the odds of killing one for a novice with a bow and arrow, those odds are pretty slim. So she might not have done anything but tick him off. So probably a
Yes.
good thing that they didn't come meandering around. But yeah, that's some kind of spunk.
But it also, in reading her experience, reminds me of when George and Libby Custer were at
Yeah.
Fort Hayes.
Yeah.
And, Annie Gibson is there with them. And they actually outfit ambulances, military ambulances are outfitted to take the ladies as the men go out on a hunt, and they're actually hunting bison. And so the ladies get to experience the thrill of the hunt, and they get to see the bison. And so I think it's interesting how these animals, their size, their strength, it's very captivating to people in the 19th century. And I think we're still captivated with them today.
um, Miguel Otero, as a little boy, he's going to go on to become the governor of the New Mexico Territory, was at Fort Hayes and went buffalo hunting. He and his brother accompanied Wild Bill and Buffalo Bill on buffalo hunts. And he liked Wild Bill. He didn't like Buffalo Bill, which is a little unusual. It's a little backwards actually from what most people said, but they said that Wild Bill was really nice and patient with them, and Buffalo Bill was too interested in hunting to pay any attention to them, and it wouldn't. Um, like he said, Wild Bill would let them take shots and not get in their way, and Bill Cody didn't do that. So it's another, but yeah, those memories. So many of those diarists write about those memories of encounters with the buffalo.
Well, I think when you see an animal that's so massive, like the buffalo, our first, I mean, obviously we're drawn to them, we're curious, but then if you get a little closer, that self-preservation instinct kicks in, but
Yeah.
there's still that blend of curiosity. There's this otherworldliness about them, I think. And when you read newspaper accounts in the 19th century of buffalo hunts, um, they are just these almost otherworldly kinds of events that take place. There's almost a mystical quality to them that I think is really fascinating to look at. But what I think is also interesting as well is the native perspective on hunting and hunting bison, hunting the buffalo, and how when that animal is hunted, it is thanked for its life. It's thanked for the sacrifice it's just made because it's going to nourish and sustain men, women, and children. Its robe will keep them warm in the winter. Its hide can be used to make a teepee. Every part of the animal can be harvested and used for something.
Mhm.
And so I like to call the bison nature's Walmart.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great way to put it because yeah, the sinew for thread. I mean, just
Mhm.
everything. So yeah, it was uh just an incredible relationship that the natives had with the bison on the plains.
So,
Well, folks, it's been great sharing Wildlife Wednesday with you. We'll be back next Wednesday, but in the meantime, look for us on Fun Time Friday. So we will see you then. I'm Deb Goodrich,
I'm Michelle Martin,
and we will see you somewhere around
and
Kansas.
Kansas.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
1921, a trade route was opened from Missouri in the United States across prairies and mountains to Mexico. In 2021, we will mark 200 years of epic conflicts and grand adventures, larger-than-life personalities, and sweeping landscapes. Join us on an historic journey. The Santa Fe Trail lives on.
Find us on social media or santafetrail.org.